What's going on, everybody? It has been about a month since we were live here on Soul Vitamins. We apologize for the not announcing that we were going to be off for about a month. It just kind of happened that way. Both Jonathan and I have been traveling nearly all summer. So say what's up in the comments. What's up, Rod Saunders from Jew and Greek? Good to see you, brother. So tonight, we're going to get right to it. We've got my brother Jonathan Goss here from the Goslings. So y'all give a Soul Vitamins welcome to Jonathan Goss. Here we go. So exciting, right?
That's adorable.
Yes. You know, it's so much cooler than that stinking air horn that everybody uses, you know.
Yeah. Who are those losers?
Everybody on the internet, including us.
Including us, yeah. It had a primo spot on our soundboard, I'll tell you.
And, yep, that's me too. It's the one closest to that I can reach. So we're going to jump right in. We're not going to waste a whole lot of time because we've got so much to talk about with the heavenly realm. So for those of you who do not know Jonathan, especially for you church music people, this is one of the sons of the great Larry Goss, may he rest in heaven, church music aficionado, orchestrator, tremendous musician. I got to study with him one semester at Lee and went to school. Actually, I think Jonathan went to Lee right after I left. I think you got there like what, 2001 or 2000?
2001 to 2002. I racked up so many demerits that I was not allowed to come back.
Well, hey, man, it still counts as a record.
No one tells you in high school that it's actually illegal to take license plates off of vehicles, even if you're just going to arrange them in a smiley face in the parking lot of your rival dorm as a prank. Turns out that's a crime. So
that's a crime. Straight through jail.
Yeah, straight to jail. Yeah.
So, and I also went to school. I was there at Lee with his older brother Nick and sister-in-law Rihanna. So let's kind of just give us a little backstory. So Jonathan and I started to connect right about the time I found out about y'all's live stream. Nick had kind of told me about your coming back to faith from the works of guys like Michael Heiser, Derek Gilbert, Chuck Missler, you know, Concern of the Nephilim. So give us just a little bit of, you know, up until you started writing the books, like what led you to be an author, you know, to start writing and just in general?
Always wanted to. Sorry. I wish I had like a cool story, but like some of my earliest memories are writing stories of like battles between like skeleton armies and giants and Roman legionaries and, you know, just all this wild stuff. And then I tried to write a sci-fi novel when I was in high school. I was a big Babylon 5 fan. Chicks really dug me. And turns out I'm not smart enough to be able to do hard science fiction. So jettisoned that idea. Sat around for a while, wanted to write another novel. Couldn't really figure it out. I had that fire, but I didn't have the direction. I had the wind, I didn't have the rudder. And I wanted to, I thought maybe I wanted to write a novel about the Crusades because I had done a English or history project on the Crusades. I went to Lighthouse Christian School and also realized that would require way too much work and I'm way too lazy. So the research involved to get that right, I wasn't up to par on that. So didn't have any direction. That summer, my older brother Nick, who does the Goslings with us, also an author, wrote the Travelers League series, available on Amazon. But whatever, Nick's getting his own show later on, so screw him.
Forget that guy.
Yeah,
that's
whatever.
The last we're going to mention that other Goss.
The other moon face Irishman. So Nick gave me a copy of Stephen Pressfield's Gates of Fire, which is about the Battle of Thermopylae. And we've had Stephen Pressfield on multiple times on the show. He comes on the Goslings 3-4 times a year. He became my favorite author. I read Gates of Fire, fell in love with it. You would know Stephen Pressfield if you're in the art or entrepreneurial world for his book, The War of Art. He's been on Joe Rogan. He's been on Oprah. He's been on Lex Fridman. Why he calls us his favorite nephews and him our favorite uncle, and why he comes on our little rinky-dink 10,000 sub channel 4 times a year, I'll never know, but the Lord works in mysterious ways. And actually, Nick, I have to give credit where credit's due, even though I really don't want to. Nick read Gates of Fire because our eldest brother, BJ, had read Gates of Fire. So props to BJ. Without BJ, potentially none of this ever would have happened. The eldest of the Goss brothers. So read Gates of Fire. And then junior year, a few things happened all at once. Let's see. Well, I met the first girl I ever fell in love with, who absolutely destroyed me. That's okay. I just made her a character, and which is what you do with. By the way, don't ever date a writer, because unless you're willing to treat them well, because that will happen.
That's right.
And then let's see, 13th Warrior came out, and that's my favorite non-Star Wars movie. We were reading Paradise Lost in my English AP class, and I was really, really blown away by some of the things that were in this, 400-year-old epic poem that no one was talking about. That was just, it was just wild. It's cool stuff. And then the other one was my friends and I, we all worked at a movie theater together. It's the perfect high school job, by the way, back when life was cool. And we wanted to go see Kevin Smith's new movie. We were Kevin Smith fans. And but it's rated R. We were all 17. So ironically, we had to go to another theater, buy tickets for some rom-com. I don't know who was in it, like Matthew McConaughey or somebody, or Kate Beckinsale. I don't know, whatever. And so imagine 3 normal-looking high school guys. You're like, I'll have one ticket for Made in America at 9 p.m. Because it was playing at the same time.
That was quite suspicious back in the day.
Not weird at all. But the movie that we were trying to sneak into was Dogma by Kevin Smith. And Dogma sort of was like the icing on the cake of this layered cake of inspiration. And especially the one scene in Dogma where the 2 fallen angels, played by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, the characters Bartleby and Loki, are arguing in the parking garage. It's this Dogma is a great movie. It's a fun movie. It's not a kid's movie. Don't take your kids to see it. Don't
no, it's not.
Watch it. But it's funny. It's cute. It's got a good heart to it. I'm sure you could pick apart the theology all day. But there's this one scene where these 2 fallen angels who are trying to get back into heaven are arguing in a parking garage, and they're talking about they're having their schism, they're falling out kind of moment, and they're like, I've seen what happens when the proud take on the throne. You're talking about
such a great scene.
Yeah,
such a great scene.
That one scene moved me, and then I don't know, probably a week or 2 later, I'm sitting in our weekly chapel class that we had at Lighthouse Christian, and I just start writing this scene of Lucifer by himself in heaven, just pouring out his resentment to this image of God that they've created. And then this other angel comes up behind him, and they start having a dialogue. And the dialogue from that scene is largely intact in the final published version. And it was written on a 5-star notepad. So
it's just crazy.
Yeah. So that was kind of the genesis of it all. And then Dad gave me a copy of Clarence Larkin's The Spirit World, which was almost 100 years old at the time. It was 80 years old at the time. I think it was written in one. Yeah, fascinating book. And again, that was talking about the Nephilim back in the 1920s. It was talking
nothing
about
new under the sun.
No, really, there really isn't, honestly. And I would bring this stuff to my school or to church or whatever, and I would say, look, Genesis 6, there were giants, the mighty men, and I would get the Sethite theory all day from people, and
because it's weird.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, but hey, all that other stuff, that's okay. You know.
Yeah, talking donkeys, splitting oceans, fire falling from the sky. See, guapo.
Right. Yeah. So I started writing, and I just kept writing. The characters sort of developed out of my relationships with other people, and a lot of Lucifer's issues were my issues. You know, theological issues, your issues with God, which we all have. And so it just kept going. And I think it was probably a year later that I was mapping out the ideas for book 2 and book 3. And they were always just like pipe dreams, like, yeah, whatever. I'll finish this first one and maybe I'll do the others. And it became a real chore and a challenge to complete Empyrean Falling, which is the first book in the series. The first draft was 1,147 pages long. Yeah, that copy is 400 pages. If that tells you anything about the editing process. Yeah. A lot of that, though, is just getting better as a writer, learning to say more with less, you know. And I'm so glad that God did not tell me that, like, hey, you're starting this project in 1999 when you're a junior in high school. You'll literally be published in 20 years. If God had told me that, if I had known that, I never would have, you know, done any of it. Tried to get published a couple times, once in 2005 and again in 2008, after I completed the first novel, Empyrean Falling. And Christian publishers didn't like it because it was too violent and to them, theologically challenging. Because even though Lucifer and Umbra Tempest and Mazarel and all these, you know, they have,
and we're gonna get into the characters.
Yeah, even though they have arguments that are compelling arguments, they're still wrong at the end of the day because they don't have any faith, you know.
Well, isn't that what makes a compelling villain, is one that you can understand or one that you can even identify with. That's why, you know, even, I mean, you have it now where people are like, they agree with Magneto.
Yeah.
You know, and I think now with the casting of Dr. Doom, people are going to be looking to, like, you know, man, really, what is Dr. Doom? It's very much kind of like Lex Luthor. It's like, well, he wants human beings to be all they can be, and he wants to, you know, what's wrong with that when you really look at his motivations? There was a book called Red Sun where Superman had landed in Russia.
Yeah, I remember.
That's a great story. And you look at Lex Luthor and you're like, is he really a bad guy? He's not. He's a bad guy, but is he a bad guy?
Yeah. I'm not even a comics guy, and I'll tell you, I love Red Sun. Red Sun's awesome. Yeah, you know, germane to that point, let's see, was it 3 or 4 weeks ago? The Rock was free on YouTube, and I went back and watched it.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that is really an even better example. General
Hummel.
Oh, Hummel. Oh my gosh, you know. And doesn't the president say it in the movie? He's, you know, the fact that we've made this great soldier, you know, our enemy, should really make us think, you know, and that's.
Yeah. His motivation is amazing. He's righteous. He's doing a bad thing that's a temporary bad thing, trying to do a good thing. And that movie actually, just across the board, in every conceivable metric, is better than I remember it. Going back and watching it at 41 years old, because I saw it in the theater.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just the older.
Larry Goss. I'm going to drop a dime on Larry Goss. Larry Goss was not shy about taking his boys to rated R movies back in the 80s. 90s,
well,
back when
that was just
cool,
was just 80s culture, man. Like, I was talking to my daughter's English teacher about that during like the whatever, you know, I can't remember whatever it is that you call when you go to the school to walk through and meet your kids' teachers. Yeah. So I was talking to one of my best, you know, closest friends of 20 years and some of the other teachers there, and I was like, you know, PG in the 80s does not mean PG.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
PG is like 13 or R today. You know, the I don't know, those censors were, but you know what, man, it made us who we are. It made the Gen X, millennials, or Zennials in my case, you know. Yeah, but Hummel was, and I think that's what you did when you're reading and you're hearing Lucifer's arguments. You're like, Golly, how can you not? Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, you're like, but is he wrong though? As the kids would say today, is he wrong though?
Yeah, well, and it goes to the main theme, and it took a while, by the way, for me to figure out the theme of the book. You think when you write a book that it's like, oh, I have this theme, and I'm going to, in an ideal world, you print it out on a little label maker and you tape it to your computer monitor, so everything you pour into what you create is aiming towards that North Star of your theme. No. It took me forever to realize that the theme of Empyrean Falling was replace fear with faith. It honestly was like the third revision when I figured it out. So, yeah. So if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Well, I appreciate that, Rocky from Rocky IV, but
yeah, right.
I don't know if anybody can sit down and write seven novels. So take us, I'm going to give you kind of my, and for those that haven't read this, especially those that have, if you have, middle school, teenage, young adult, boys, men, this is the Crusades meets, I'm trying to think what's something supernatural. This is like Lord of the Rings meets Kingdom of Heaven meets The Prophecy, and meets Frank Peretti's This Present Darkness. It's just an amazing combination, and just a few chapters in, man, I mean, you're in a war movie, and once you're halfway in the book, once it gets to battles, you are in a war movie. Yeah. You are in a Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Kingdom of Heaven, 13th Warrior style.
Braveheart.
Braveheart, and I know reading is difficult for people today, but like what was the inspiration? Like obviously we've got Pressfield with the Gates of Thermopylae story, but what else kind of, and you mentioned the 13th Warrior, but what else kind of made you think of it in these terms? Because you could have, that conversation in the beginning, not to give any kind of spoiler, Gabriel is having a present day conversation with a man. Mm-hmm. I read that 3 times. Like I had to, every time I would go to, heaven, eons in the past, I'd be like, I want to read that again. So what made you go from this almost a dialogue driven, drama to a war film?
It's like a weird, I think, deficiency where I almost have this like George Lucas failure style of directing when it comes to writing, of like, they talk and then they fight. And then they talk, and then they fight. It's almost like video game logic, where there's a cutscene, and then you do the mission, And
which speaks to, yeah. I mean, like that's for, like I said, man. A boy of 9, all the way to a guy my age would just get that. They would just get that. I mean, especially me growing up in the video game age, and kids today that are literally bathed in it. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, because when it's time for fighting, ain't no conversations.
No, people anything anyways.
No, you're just yelling and it's chopping.
Yeah. You're lucky you hear the trumpets before something bad happens, because some officer screwed up a command somewhere or didn't get the message. Fog of war. The dialogue is typically not necessary unless it's up close. Lord of the Rings actually was really good about that. They were really good about bringing you out and then bringing you in, and you can have these intimate moments of dialogue. Lord of the Rings was probably a huge inspiration. Braveheart. You're going to laugh. Actually, I had a buddy of mine.
Dune?
What's that?
Dune?
Dune. Absolutely. Actually, yes. 100%, because
there's no battle pug. There was no battle pug.
There's no battle pug. Well, you know what? You can't have everything. Okay? Not everybody gets Patrick Stewart with a laser gun in one hand and a pug in the other.
Long live Duke Leto!
I don't care what anybody says. OG Dune is legit. And by the way, it's not for anybody watching. It's not a legit conversation between Gabriel Bello and I until
Till Dune comes up. Yep.
Yeah.
We had to get out of the way. Okay, as you were saying.
Yeah. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, this house is clear. I had a buddy of mine from high school build me a gaming PC on the cheap so that I could play Rome Total War purely for like research, so I could visualize the battles.
Yes.
Because I had all these different, like I spent probably at least $300-$400 back in the early 2000s on research books for different types of military units in the ancient and medieval world. So everything from knight hospitallers, and Roman legionaries to Greek hoplites and what are they? The Mayhouts who drove the elephants, the war elephants.
You're talking about the war with Hannibal, right?
Yeah. So I researched all this different stuff, and I just cherry picked all these different things that I liked from throughout history, pre-firearm, and kind of coalesce them together. And then you get into that fun world building stage where it's fun and there's no responsibility because you're just kind of building everything. There's not a lot of stress with world. I mean, there can be with world building, but a lot of times world building is really fun, which is what bogs down a lot of people. But I probably spent 2 years kind of just figuring out what I wanted this world to look like as I'm writing it, which is kind of honestly to my detriment, to my defacement. This kind of is why the book opens up the way it does, because I'm going on that journey too, as as I'm researching. But yeah, I did. I used Rome Total War as this way to simulate all these battles that I had in my head, and you can't totally replicate it, but I found ways to justify the fact that they're angels. So well, why aren't they all just flying around all the time? And it's well, if you use swords, shields, if you use arrows, bows and arrows, slings, that's
a really nice, easy way to get picked out of the sky.
You can get picked out of the sky. There's even, I don't remember if it's in Empyrean Falling or if it's in a later book, but there is a conversation at some point where they talk about how when we first got the prophecy of the dragon, we started training in the Eastern Kingdom, training our choirs to learn how to fight war and figure this out. We were war gaming. We originally were all in the air, because we could fly. But then we figured out if you're in the air, you can get picked out easily. You also will get really tired. You can also get really injured, because if you're really close to each other, once stuff starts going bad, you're going to crash into each other. He's it's that line from Dogma of we lost 5 atoms before we figured that out.
That man could not stand the voice of God.
You'll laugh at this. I got a buddy. He's a Army veteran, Parks Ranger, and then he started working with the U.S. Marshals for a little while. He's one of my best friends from when I worked in the gun shops. He grew up on a farm in Kentucky, and I would ask him, because he was yeah, I was in Bosnia. It was awful. I was what was awful about it that you want to talk about? And he said, what? At the end of the day, I'd always just tell myself, no matter how bad it is, it beats being on the farm. It's oh, okay. So I guess growing up on a farm in Kentucky is worse than Bosnia. Fair enough. So I give him a copy of my book when it comes out, and he reads it up until chapter 2 or 3, or maybe chapter 5 or something, where Michael is asking Gabriel if they want to saddle up the horses to ride to the Holy Temple as opposed to flying. And he was what do angels need horses for? I was well, I mean, I started to explain it to him. It's well, if you're riding around with armor, you got to think in this world, flying is an equivalent to running. How far can you run in full kit, before you're too exhausted to be combat effective? So they
Why not just hop in a Hummer?
Right. Yeah. Just hop in a Hummer, And so he's no, man, that's dumb. Angels don't need horses. It's Jason, what is the problem here? I feel you're messing with me. He's no, man, I hate horses. I hate horses. So
that's that
he
farm.
Never read another page of the book because he hates horses.
Oh. No, it was funny because I actually thought about that and I was like, well, it makes sense. You don't have to exert yourself. Let the animal exert itself. So I went right past that. So I was, because you think that just because they're super dimensional, they're not, they're not omnipotent. There's limits to their power, to their strength, to their stamina. So for someone that grew up reading comics, it's like, oh well, yeah,
Yeah, there's like a structure. There's like a power structure, power creep, and dynamics, and like do I really think that's what it is? No, obviously, this is a story. It's fictional characters.
Well, but also, why in the world would it talks about in Revelation when Christ returned, we're all going to be riding horses. Why is he riding a horse?
Yeah, right. That's a good point. Yeah.
That's what you're gonna have to text them that tonight. Be like, hey man, I finally have a good comeback. You must not like Jesus because he's riding a horse when he comes back. So finish my dang book.
Yeah, right.
Perfect place to put the thing. All right, so we kind of got a little bit. What was the? I can't remember the thing you were talking about. You said I was going to laugh at the inspiration. Did you already say that?
Yes.
Before we got sidetracked with Dune.
Yeah, it was video games and Rome.
Oh, the Rome game. Yeah, which I thought you did a really good job of trying to explain, even for someone that's not versed in that stuff. You can kind of in your mind's eye, you can see these different groups of soldiers kind of assembling and how they would assemble with different war machines. Which for those of you, he has a nice little index codex here at the back for some of the terminology, because some of that armor stuff I'm like, well, what's that? I'm gonna have to go to Google Images and be like, oh, that kind of helmet looks like this, that kind of gauntlet looks like this, these boots look like this, and when you see it, you really start to get images of what these angels and fallen look like. Which what was the what was it that they called themselves? It wasn't the fallen, wasn't the rebel. It was something fire, right?
Oh,
something with
the Phoenix Empyrean.
The Phoenix Empyrean.
Yeah. They called.
Hold up. Say it again. Say it again.
The Phoenix Empyrean. Nice. That Stream Deck is getting a workout today, baby.
Yeah, buddy. It's been dormant. It's been lying dormant for a month. Yeah, here it is. Dog chompers, dragoons, dyad, galguns, greaves, hadar. Porcupines.
And a lot of that stuff is real stuff.
Absolutely.
A lot of that stuff, and sometimes I just rob the name right out of a history, a military manual. Other times I just make up some sort of pseudonym that, is probably a nickname they gave it. And then let's see, there was another group of guys in there, fallen angels, called the Imperial Flames. And
is that Mazrael's group?
No, that's Satan's 1 million elite bodyguard.
That's right.
Yeah. But the the Phoenix Empyrean was like their revolutionary order that they had, So,
dude, what that just reminded me of, and we're not going to get into the details of it because I really want y'all to read this. But there's a battle that takes place as Satan is attempting to ascend to the throne. That battle,
yeah.
The Battle of Benediction. Holy cow, man! That it wasn't a courtroom. It wasn't what was the name of, like, what is that? What was that place? Because they had to go into, like, there was special guards. To me, in my brain, I'm thinking like they were like the Jedi Temple guards that guarded the doorway into the presence. What was that?
It's the first major battle. It's really the battle that Lucifer thought, as Satan, it thought he would win. He didn't really plan on there being a war necessarily, and it takes place in the Holy Temple, at the throughout the Hallowed Causeway, at the Holy Steps, and up the 40 steps onto the summit. And I'm trying to remember what else was important about that. Oh, well, it's very like Warhammer 40K-ish in its like scope, because it's the entire angelic host
Yeah.
in the Holy Temple giving this benediction ceremony, which they used to do all the time before they started participating in the creation.
And yeah, so I'm just gonna say y'all have to read that. Like I almost want to just go back to that place and read it myself again, but
I
you
tell
have
you,
to read. Go ahead.
there's so our narrator, Adam Burrell, who did the audiobooks, he has a YouTube channel. His last name is spelled Burrell, Adam Burrell. And it might be Adam Narrates or something like that. But if you type in Adam Burrell, Heavenly Realms, Empyrean Falling, he narrated that chapter. He took that chapter out of the audiobook, put it on YouTube, and put like some stock, like epic music to it. And dude, it's a banger. Like,
Hold up.
it's
We're gonna find it. We're gonna find it right now.
yeah, it's pretty
We're
good.
gonna find it right now and put it in the comments while we're going. Oh, yep, there it is. Okay, so everybody, make sure you share this link. Share this link, or save this link rather. Save it and share it, because you need to. Yeah. So let's talk about the three main characters in this, which are the archangels, right? So we got Gabriel, Lucifer, Gabriel, Michael, Lucifer. Let's talk about that dynamic. They're brothers. They're the highest princes. Dig into that, brother. Whatever you think you wanna tell us about them.
Yeah. Well, I have three brothers, so I know what it's, and I'm number 3 of 4. So I spent most of my life as an older brother, except when Nick and or BJ would come into town, and then I was a younger brother. So I kind of know what it's like to be both as a middle child, but mostly an older brother. And that's kind of the dynamic with all the angels, because all the angels are masculine in the books, but the archangels are no exception. In the Heavenly Realms series, there's Lucifer, who is the first created being, and he's the anointed cherub. He's he has all these different titles. He's exactly what you think he is. He's the first one out of the gate, and so he's kind of in charge of everything. And then right after him is Michael, and then there's Gabriel. Michael is the patriarch of the cherubim, and Gabriel is the archon of the seraphim. And Michael and Gabriel are in like a Jungian animus kind of way. If you split Lucifer in two, you would get Michael and Gabriel. So like when the war kicks off, when Lucifer transforms Vader style into Satan, Michael and Gabriel both are like, bro, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, they're telling the council this. They're like, yeah, we might be able to stop him, because like our Voltron powers combined, like maybe.
Yeah, and I really like that, where Satan is often portrayed as, or sometimes portrayed as, like a Skeletor. He's just a meanie, but he's not. He's or like Cobra Commander. It's like, oh, he's beatable. Right. And you took
kind of a buffoon,
Yeah, you took almost like Vader, Darth Sidious, Thanos,
and a little bit of Event Horizon in there too.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
There's an Event Horizon vibe there.
Yeah, it's a little horrific on some of the stuff that happens to these guys, but it's real. I mean, and that's what it's going to appeal to young men reading this. But you just made him. When I'm reading this, I'm like, how are they going to win? This is less God step in, and you're really trying to make it like, kind of like in Bruce Almighty, where Morgan Freeman is God's like, look, man, I want you to do this stuff. I could do all this for you, but then what's the point?
What's the point? I want automatons.
Yeah, I want you to learn. I want you to experience. I want you to grow. And that's what you kind of have, like, the Lord himself just kind of pat him on the head, like, you can do it. I know. Go do it.
Yeah, do it.
So, and you stuck that in there before, I'm like, okay, so it's up to them.
Yeah.
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 It's he is a quite an imposing, charismatic, intelligent.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a little bit of that Magneto in there too. It's like, wow, man, this is convincing too. They're like, do I want to pick sides? And then when
Yeah.
you see
Right.
some of these guys that defect, you're like, oh my gosh, not Gimli, man, not the Gimli like trainer guy that's training the army. He's like, what? I can't remember what's his name. He said he's got the Scottish accent. What was his name again?
Giad Althaziel.
Yeah, dude.
Althaziel for short. Yeah.
Yeah, that whole thing there made me sad.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're getting talking about Lucifer is, and explain to me like who you would cast if if we could wave a magic wand, make a film tomorrow. You said like James Spader, right? Would be.
Dude, of all things, again, working in a movie theater, I saw every movie that came out, including the bad ones, and that would include James Spader's and Angela Bassett's 19 or maybe 2000s sci-fi horror travesty Supernova.
Never saw it.
Movie. Yeah, but James Spader he's like Kurt Russell. Like, he's awesome in everything, even if it sucks. Like, he's great, right? So, like, James Spader obviously was, like, lactating HGH in this movie. Like, he was roided to the gills. And but he's cool. He's menacing. He's got this iciness to him. He's in control constantly, and it resonated. It was like, oh my gosh, man, that's Lucifer.
Yeah, and when you watch stuff like modern shows like The Blacklist, or like I think the first thing I ever saw him in was Wolf. Once again, children of the 80s and 90s. My dad's like, hey, we're gonna watch this movie about werewolves. It's like. My mom's like, why are you letting them watch this? That was the response. It wasn't logic, wasn't an argument, just But you were watching James Spader, like, oh man, this guy. I mean, Jack Nicholson is Jack Nicholson. This guy's he's giving Jack Nicholson a run for his money. So yeah, that was beautiful. So that's kind of. So now we got Lucifer. Now go in on Michael, which is kind of like. To some extent, I feel is like you. He's almost you.
Oh, thanks, man. Honestly, a lot of people say that. It's very complimentary. Michael is who I wish I were. Michael is like me if I didn't suck. So like Lucifer is who I am, minus the power and charisma. Just all of his peevish resentment and his inability to get over stuff. Michael,
but you don't write Michael that way. You don't write him as perfect. I mean, the first scene, you're like, you write the first scene with him, you're like, gosh, this is Michael? I was like, dude, where's he going with this? I'm not going to spoil it. You're going to have to read it to see what I'm talking about. So don't give him a clue. But I was like, he's very not a perfect hero. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, there's a vulnerability to him, but it's not like I wouldn't consider it a sacrilegious or intentionally like degenerate vulnerability.
No, not at all.
He's burdened. He's really, really burdened by a handful of things that really are affecting him, and it's going to affect everybody else.
And some of that is the stuff that's caused Lucifer to make these decisions.
Yeah, I mean, Michael's greatest sin is that he is, he kind of neglected being his brother's keeper. It's Michael's story is almost a cautionary tale in that one of like, he can fight the whole world, he can wage war against the dragon, and if he needs to, he'll sacrifice every cherub under his command if he has to, but he can't face the idea that like his eldest brother and best friend and fellow cherub might actually fulfill the prophecy of the dragon. Like that's the thing he can't. And if he could, maybe none of this would have happened. I mean, it probably still would have, but who knows, So, and I'd always wanted, in my head, Oded Fair, who played the Magi leader from The Mummy, was Michael the Archangel.
I think that was sick that low. He says that one thing in Arabic, like for every line. I'm like, wow, that thing really means 17 different things. It's like Chinese, sure. Well,
Yeah.
which is sure, you know, sure. You know, you see those Instagram things of it makes the same sound. Like here's this sentence in Spanish and French using the same sounding thing, and it's
Durka, Muhammad Jihad.
a Sherpa
Bacala.
Bacala. No, but Oded Furs. So you know, so picture that, y'all. So you got James Spader, Lucifer.
Yeah.
You know, charismatic, but yeah, that iciness, man. It's funny because sometimes you're reading and you're getting convinced, and then he says something, and you can just picture those dead eyes, and you're like, is this guy convincing me, or is he just using me? You know?
Right. Yeah, and that's it's kind of why I paired him with the first time you see him, and really kind of his first low-level convert is the little seraph, the pudgy little seraph Maldus, because he's the exact opposite of Lucifer. Highly susceptible, timid, you know, kind of dumb, fat, short. You know, he's like a hobbit, but not cool, you know. And only like half the hobbits were cool, let's be honest, you know. So.
I mean, other than Sam and Bilbo, it's like that's my short list. I don't even, you know, really the other ones. I look at Frodo and I'm like, you're gonna go through all that. I get mad at him every time they get it over to those flames. He's like, no. I mean, like if I were Sam, I'd have just pushed him.
Like, I love you, bro, but the world is at stake here. Okay.
Listen, I just carried your hobbit behind up a mountain.
Yeah, I carried you up Mount Doom.
Everybody just cried and shouted because I can't carry your burden, but I can carry you. And then the ring is mine, Sam. I'd have been like, boop.
Yeah, you can't tampon out on me here. Either the ring goes in or you go in with the ring.
With the ring.
Yeah, because look, the Eagles are coming, okay? We're all getting out of here.
The mountain trolls are coming, dude. Sauron is coming. Oh, my goodness. So, yeah.
You just want to talk about Lord of the Rings for like another 45 minutes? Can we just... Screw it. Okay.
Yeah, well, it's I don't want to ruin of what happens to that character. You know, we were just talking about. So once again, you got to read the book, and yeah, there's so many good comeuppance. One of my favorite things I told Jonathan, there's a battle between two characters who are actually twins. What are their
Umbra
constellation
Tempest.
twins?
Yeah, they're constellation. They just call it a constellation, but yeah, they're like twin angels who are, you know, they're brothers. They're like twin brothers, basically.
Yeah, it reminded me of the twins in G.I. Joe. I can't remember the names.
Oh yeah. Actually, okay, you're gonna laugh at this. You know what their inspiration was? Jet Li and one of my favorite underutilized actors, Russell Wong, from Romeo Must Die.
Oh, interesting. So they're Asian.
Again, another crappy movie. But
so
I say that.
there.
That's not. That's
Tomax and Zaymont, which I literally just now realized that their names are it's the same name, just one's in reverse.
Oh, of course it is.
Of course. Hey, it's the 80s, dude.
Yeah,
it's the 80s. 80s magic.
How many lines of blow do you think it took before they came up with that? You know?
Not even one.
That was a cheap solution.
They had to save it all for Serpentor. And
Yeah.
Cobra. La, 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 la.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Cobra La 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 is definitely a Coke creation.
Yes, because that's what they were saying while they were making the lines, trying to finish that whole storyline. But back to your book. But there's a something that happens between these two brothers that I told him. I was like, man, that could have been like a chapter's worth of dialogue. He said, oh no, it is. It's in another book. I'm like, you jerk.
Yeah.
Because it happens so silently in the scope of this story.
Yeah.
I had to stop reading. I'm like, and start imagining myself. I'm like, there's no way they didn't have a conversation, or maybe there was so much to be said that they couldn't say anything. It's like, oh no, there's a whole thing, and it's in another book. And I'm like, son of a gun.
Yes. Some of the books overlap in their timelines because they tell different parts of the stories in a way that like it's not incomplete. You're not left wanting, but some of these stories do dovetail back in. And
it's 1,100 pages. You took those pages and you put them in other books.
I did. Honestly, that's exactly what I did. Yeah. I took those.
Otherwise, book one would have been 3 books, just for one.
Yeah. Yeah. If I walked, the movie would be over. So, yeah.
Lord of the Rings, once again. It's just a stinking movie about a bunch of people walking.
Oh, no, that's a Spaceballs reference.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
I went to Kevin. I'm still half, like 10% of the brain is still over there in Kevin Smith land. So
that's
I went to Clerks too.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So Gabriel. Now we got James Spader, Oded Fur, and now so Gabriel. Tell us about like how you see him, how you wrote him, and he's like I said, he's one of the main characters that you open the book with.
Yeah, in the version you get of Gabriel in present day,
very different.
Very different.
Very different.
And Gabriel, I feel bad for Gabriel, which is why I made him so cool in some of the other books, because I owed it to him. I had to have a sort of effeminate, timid character in this cast. And so, like, physically he's modeled after my younger brother when he was 16, and Cameron was not effeminate looking, but he was very cherubic in nature. He had long hair, he was thin, tall.
Dude, I read him as Vega from Street Fighter. Yeah. That's how I saw in my mind. I was like but without the sadistic aggression.
Yeah. I needed the opposite of that. I needed a character. Somebody had to be resistant to the cause. Somebody had to be timid and not wanting to do it, not because I wanted somebody to be like that, but I needed somebody to carry that weight of storytelling so that I could have that foil with Michael, who's the exact opposite. Like Michael, he'll fight every battle, whether he thinks he can win or not. And you know what? A lot of times in the first book, like spoilers, like he doesn't win a lot of those battles,
the book would be very short if he did.
Yeah, be a very short book. But he is not. He will not flinch if it means sacrificing an overwhelming majority or all of his cherubim to accomplish the mission. Gabriel is the exact opposite. Gabriel, he's not a pacifist. He's not weak. He's the only archangel in the story. He's the only archangel who's a seraph. The other 2 brothers are older and they're cherubs. So he's always kind of been like the odd man out. And so he vicariously fills that gap because nature abhors a vacuum for validation and love with his choir. So he kind of like mothers and dotes over his choir, and he's overprotective of them. And so that created the dynamic I needed as a storytelling thing between him and Michael, because they're so different from each other.
Yeah.
But Gabriel
it's chess.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's chess. Michael will, listen, man, I don't care if it takes all my pieces. I'm going to get your king. And Gabriel's trying not to lose any pieces. Yeah, and Gabriel will, like, in trying to keep his pieces, will end up sacrificing the king. And it's like, well, dude, you just lost the game. I don't care how many pieces you had on the board. And that's that's that argument between them.
Mm-hmm. And it was great because they're brothers. And they're both on the same side. They love each other. They need each other. So I have, you have Gabriel over here who is like
Which makes that conflict even better because nobody fights like brothers.
Nobody fights like brothers. Bro. Tell me about it.
I got 2 of them. I know all about it.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Which one are you, by the way, Gabe?
I'm the true middle child.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got one above me and one below me.
Yeah.
And then we got a baby girl, so I've always told my younger brother, he said, I'm a middle child too. I'm like, no, you're not. You're baby boy. I'm the middle child. I'm the true middle child.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Gabriel gets a lot cooler, by the way, especially in book 5, Wayfarers. You get a lot more time with him and you see him grow. And Wayfarers takes place from the Empyrean, their creation in the Empyrean, all the way up to, I think, 1918. So you get a lot more exposure to these characters as time goes on. So anybody who's like a big Archangel Gabriel fan, don't worry. I know.
Well, I mean, he's not uncool, and you don't hate him. I mean, honestly, the conversations he has with the guy in the beginning and the end, and I don't remember if there's any I don't remember if you take us out and they talk in the middle. So it's only
Gabriel gives to Marcus.
Yeah. So that, like I said, that conversation, I read that 3 times before I even got to the book, because I was like, man, this is really good.
Thanks, man. I'm glad to hear you say that, because like I was in a writers group about 15 years ago, and I remember catching justifiable flack for how long that prologue is. And I remember that the lead guy of the writers group, who was this pretty well accomplished playwright in Tennessee, told me like it's long, it's an info dump, but Jonathan, I don't know how you work around it. I don't know how you do anything else. It's like you have to do that,
dude. It's like what's the movie of the Pacific Rim?
Yeah.
The only thing they didn't need to do is just don't put Pacific Rim after that 20 minutes. We know what we're watching.
Yeah. Dude, I used to tell people all the time, like, if you watch the first 30 seconds of Pacific Rim with that little intro, you're either on the train or you're off the train. Like that's all you need. Immediately if you're like into this movie or not.
Monsters started showing up and we couldn't blow them up, so we had to build robots. I'm out. I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
you know what?
If you're out, you're out really quick, and if you're in, yeah. I mean, why would you walk out on that? Lastly, so since we've gone about an hour, but I want to just a couple more things to wrap this up before we start parking the bus, as my dear friend Pastor Corey would say.
Don't drive it if you can't park it.
That's right. Oh, you know what? Yeah, hold up. We're gonna have to do one more thing before we get in there, because like when you were talking about the conflict between Gabriel being resistant, being the foil. Mm-hmm. That council of elders. Oh my gosh!
You hate them, don't you?
Friends, if you think you hate politics now.
Yeah. If you've ever watched C-SPAN and think this is what my tax dollars go to.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. This will be very cathartic for you, because the Council of Elders, the bureaucratic, the red tape laden Gordian knot bureaucracy of the lower realm of heaven and the Heavenly Realm series is infuriating. Yeah.
But realistically believable, especially like you said, if you know how real governments work, and that these are, though they're higher beings, they're not the Lord, they're not omniscient.
Right.
And you're looking at this logic and you're just like, you guys are going to just, bring the invaders. Yeah. I was seriously thinking, I'm like, somebody's going to get tempted out of the kingdom just out of spite.
Yeah. Just to prove a point to these guys.
Just to come back with a sword and be like, told you so.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And some of them are cool,
absolutely. What's the head elder?
Metatron.
I am the Metatron. Which, he wasn't like Alan Rickman at all.
We can't you can't have Alan Rickman in everything.
No.
I tell you who I did base him off of, though, was Dennis Haysbert, who played the president in 24. Big black guy.
Oh, yeah.
Big Mufasa
you've told me that before.
Yeah. Dennis Haysbert's great. He was also in that show, The Unit. And he's just got that Mufasa dad energy about him.
Yeah, and then talk about the elder that is almost. I was waiting for it to find out that he was with the Empyrean the whole time. Which who knows, that might happen in other books. Don't give it away. Don't spoil it for me. But he was more like speaking of Al Rickman's, his cousin, right? I can't remember the name of the actor.
Michael Wincott.
Michael Wincott. Why a spoon, brother?
Yeah.
Because you twit, it'll hurt more.
Yeah, dude, Michael Wincott, one of the great underutilized actors. Again, he's awesome in The Crow, which I've watched a few times, but and it's a good movie. It's not my jam, but it's great. But then he's Guy of Gisborne in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which is arguably one of the greatest movies ever made.
Yep.
I'll fight on that hill. That's fine. And then,
I was thinking about that. I don't know why people don't use that to be like, look at the mobile Muslim. Because I'm sorry, Azim is the, hold up. Azim is the, he is the absolute in that movie.
Yeah. How you people survived the Dark Ages, I would never know. Yeah, he's got the spyglass,
Yeah, oh my gosh, yes.
Can we just talk about Robin Hood? Can we spend the last 20 minutes talking about Robin Hood?
No, we have to do our movie pod. We have to start doing our movie podcast because that's just there's too much. Yeah. There's too much, and Robin Hood would be at least a 3-hour conversation.
Yeah, right.
Brian Blessed, never.
Michael Wincott was the inspiration in my head for the Eldar Asmodeus, who is, and again, this takes place before the fall. So like a lot of these characters you look at, you're like, wait, Asmodeus, or sometimes he's pronounced Asmodeus. It's like, yeah, Asmodeus is a bad guy. It's like, yeah, that should probably give you a clue, But all this also takes place before, a lot of what we know. So anyways, but he was straight up ripped off from Michael Wilcott's voiceover performance
of Halo, right?
Yeah, as the Prophet of Truth from Halo 2.
Yes.
I was shameless about it. I even gave him a red robe.
I love it. I can't wait to chop this thing up into clips, man. This is going to be so, honestly, I think, I know there's only a few of us here watching this interview, but I know, the clips of this are going to get thousands of views. People are going to be like, what?
Yeah,
I mean, the 13th Warrior Kingdom of Heaven thing with the Prophet of Truth as one of the bad, I got to read this book, Yeah.
Yeah. It makes sense when you stand back and look at it, maybe after a couple of drinks while wearing the wrong prescription lenses, No,
it totally, when you said that after, I can't remember if I talked to you while I was reading it or right when I finished, and you said that, and I was like, yes, because I think I had told you, I would look at this character's this and well, this is who I had in mind, and I'm like, that's better. Yeah, that's better. And I think there was one character. Who was the character that you said Michael Ironside would be? Wasn't it not Malefax?
No, Gyat Althazil.
That's right. Yeah, but with a Scottish accent now, because that just makes more sense.
That's thanks to my narrator, Adam Burrell. He did not have a Scottish accent. In my head, it was Colonel Ratchek, or maybe he's Sergeant Ratchek in the movie. I can't remember, but Starship Troopers. He's Michael Ironside from Starship Troopers, and he's awesome. And in my head, Althazil is awesome as Michael Ironside.
And you said Mazarel was, and by the way, y'all, Mazarel is one of Lucifer's lieutenants, who I would liken him to Beast Man for reasons you have to read the book, but he's this hulking, he's bigger than just about all the other angels, and you had him as Clancy Brown, right?
Yeah, Clancy Brown.
Yeah, which you've seen Highlander, Clancy Brown is the actor that plays, what's the name of the guy in the
Kurgan.
The Kurgan. Yeah. Better to fade out than, better to burn out than fade away. Also the voice of Lex Luthor in Superman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
Also the head guard in Shawshank Redemption.
Mm-hmm. And he was Sergeant Zim in Starship Troopers.
Yep.
He got the brain bug, baby.
Yes, he did.
Come on.
My goodness, did you put Rico in there anyway? Anywhere?
No.
Not even get blown away?
If I had chick angels, I would have put Dizzy in there as my personal muse. Can you marry a guardian angel? Because, I'm just putting that request in right now. Can I just get Dina Meyer as my guardian angel?
You once asked my advice. Want some now? Never pass up on a good thing, soldier.
Never pass up on a good thing. Make it 10 minutes.
Yeah, make it 20. Make it 20. Oh, my goodness, yeah. So, gosh, the cognoscenti, yeah. I mean, there's There's a protege that Michael is training. I mean, that has supernatural gifts. Yeah, I'm telling you all, this is so up, a modern. Yeah, unless you're one of those dudes that just, I don't care about books, I don't watch movies, I don't watch TV shows, I just go outside and do things outside. Well, yeah, fantastic. Good for you. Nothing wrong with that. Keep on going out there and hunting and just doing uber manly things. But for the thinking man that has a creative mind, especially as a believer, and this is the final point I wanted to land at. There was something we were talking about the other day, and I want you to share about. There's very little for Christian men, Christian young men, that's manly to engage in. You have to go out into the world to watch your sports, to get your fiction and your stories, because unfortunately, church, especially in the Protestant realm, has become very feminine.
Yeah.
So it's, we don't want men to be men. We don't want men to be warriors. And you said something Saturday. I'm hoping you can remember exactly what it was, because I kind of remember a hint of it. Do you remember what it was?
It's okay to want to be a crusader.
Bingo.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be a crusader. Honestly. I'll tell you, I've always despised church and church culture and most church men, because they're not men. And I think I've been swimming in the wrong seas, to be honest with you.
I've been for my Reformed friend and my Orthodox friends, I've been telling them to go find a good Reformed church or an Orthodox church, because yeah.
Well, it's just, everybody, and it's a societal thing. Like,
yes,
there's a real competition between which is downstream of which, church or culture. And I'm not sure. I'd like to say that society is downstream of, culture is downstream of church, but I don't know. I think you win culture and society in the church, but there's nothing for men in church, at least in Protestant churches. There's nothing for men, because American society for the past 60 years has marketed everything to women. So, and they've focused on emasculating men and empowering women. I mean, they made a whole TV show about it. They've been the largest buying demographic for the past 60 years. The TV show is called Mad Men. They made a whole show about it. So, like, women are the largest buying demographic. So everything caters to women. But it's the Garden of Eden. It's the serpent beguiling Eve, and then Eve saying, hey, if you want to be with me, you got to eat the fruit too. And so the guy simps and cucks and, oh, okay, or you go off the rails, or you become a hermit or something. There's just no good option. And churches don't want men because, they want women, because women spend the money. And that's why they pump charities and they pump missions fields and all this stuff, and new daycares and new buildings and potpourri in the bathrooms, even in the guys' bathrooms, changing stations everywhere. It's for women to bring their kids and spend their
we got money. Changing stations everywhere, but we're not encouraging and pushing marriage and having kids.
Right. And we're not teaching strength and honor. We're not
yeah. How did we not say gladiator?
Yeah.
How in the world did we go an hour and not mention gladiator once, which perfectly fits in with this? I mean, within the context of this story, it's strength and honor. Strength and honor. I mean, truly, boy, if you're a man and you just heard me say that and you didn't bump your chest, shame on you. Bump your chest right now.
But that's the thing. I wanted to write some. I have always hated church because church always made me feel bad about being a testosterone-driven guy. Like, yeah, you know what? I smoke cigarettes and like I curse, and I believe that like violence is a like. Not gonna say it because I don't want to get you hurt on your channel, but. The problem.
Well, hey, I'll just tell people, hey, go read the first book and go read the last book.
Yeah.
Go read Genesis and go read Revelation, and God ain't got no problem with it.
Yeah. So I just Heavenly Realms for me, I think, was in a lot of ways, along with being self-therapy and all this other stuff that's like this navel gazing, whatever kind of thing that we do as writers, and you kind of have to do that, and that's okay. But like a lot of it was, I wanted to write something that I wish people talked about in church to make me want to go to church, you
Yeah.
know? And so like it's hyper masculine in a lot of
Yeah.
ways,
You know, and it's funny because for
nothing
me,
different anymore.
the churches that I grew up in, you know, it was the men that shaped me. We had, you know, the Royal Rangers, and we were out there learning how to throw axes while we're learning scripture, and we're doing camping trips, and we're doing push-ups when we got out of line.
Nice.
You know, so like I know my Royal Ranger commanders, my youth pastor, who's my mentor. I mean, you look at what he preaches and how he teaches and how he's running his congregation, and you're like, that's, you know, it's you know, he expects the men to be men. And I know any one of them, they would have read this and they'd have been like, required reading. They'd have been like, okay, here, you know, and this is why I put this in the description. I put, you know, Frank Peretti and John Bunyan, because the Reformed pastor, Pastor Corey, who I've mentioned a couple times already, he talked about how that was it wasn't required reading, but it just kind of became like, here's your Bible, here's Pilgrim's Progress, because this is an analogy for your life of the trials, the temptations. You're going to want to get stuck in depression. You're going to want to be tempted by the circus of life. You're going to fight the devil. You better learn how to fight, you know, but the reward is worth it, because we will be with our Maker. We will be with him in eternity. So this is why, you know, you have to go through this, and it is a battle. And, you know, I mean, Christian learns how to get his armor. He learns how to get his sword. And then we stopped reading that book. And there are now pastors starting to, like, they're trying to say, hey, look, we need to write, you know, I mean, yeah, Tolkien's great and C.S. Lewis is great, but this was specifically written for Christians. This was not, this is kind of like, you know, Aslan is kind of like this, and this is an allegory. No, he's like, no, you're going to fight the devil. You know, King Jesus is going to help you, you know, like, this is specifically, exactly. Exactly. So I think, you know, behind that, it'd have been like, oh yeah. And, you know, so they'd have been like, okay, you reading Pilgrim's Progress? Okay, now we're going to get you into something serious, you know, get your copy of Heavenly Realms, and you're going to get an idea of what could have gone down before the Lord put all these things into motion. So yeah, this is, I have the link in the description, so y'all can go straight to Amazon and get all of Jonathan's books. It's in the description of this live stream. And any last thoughts you want to share about, you know, about your books, man, which you just finished the 7th one, the last one this summer, right?
I did. It took forever. I wrote all of these from 99 to 2009, or maybe 2010. And then could never find a publisher. Kind of lost my faith for a little while and spent 5 years as a self-professed atheist, and felt like a complete failure during that time. Just because, like, I couldn't make anything. I'd spent my 20s trying to make these books, and no one wanted them. You know, a whole 7-novel series. When I should have spent my 20s, you know, I say I should have spent my 20s like learning a trade, learning a skill, you know, doing whatever. Like, you know, I should have joined the military right out of school, like all those kind of things. But you know, it landed well. It hurts me sometimes to think that, you know, man, I wish mom and dad were here with me still to enjoy that. But, you know, that's life. I saw Nick publishing his Travelers League series, and when he explained to me how Amazon KDP allows for self-publishing now, and that, like, it's not just some vanity project that narcissists do like it was in the mid 2000s, that it's actually pretty legitimate, you know, and he walked me through the whole process. So I owe a lot of it to Nick. And then, it took probably another 5-6 years to get them all dusted off and edited and kind of massaged a little bit, maybe a little updated, you know, but the core manuscripts are all kind of the same. And Pandemonium Rising finally got released. That's the 7th and final novel in the series. And then right now, I have a 777-page unabridged edition of Empyrean Falling that I'm working on it's in its final stages of editing. It reads more like a proper, like, epic fantasy. That'll probably come out hopefully in the next 3 or 4 months, but it'll still be a while. So, and there's enough new material in there to where, like, you should probably read Empyrean Falling now if you haven't started on the series, and when you go back and read the unabridged edition, you'll enjoy it more. So
Yeah, which I can't wait to reread it and then get the unabridged. And for those of you, this is the cover of his final book in the series, number 7. And yes, that is the blood of his enemies there on the sword. We don't shy away from it, dear Christian. We don't shy away from it.
You know, I was really surprised at. By the way, shout out to Roxana for doing that painting. She did that digitally, but it was her idea to do characters, which was different than all the other covers. And she's awesome. Roxana Perona Oliva. Roxana Bio Arts, I think, is how you can find her. So yeah, she's killer. She does a good job.
Yeah.
We have them on Amazon in paperback, Kindle, and most of them, I think books 1 through 5, are in audiobook format with Adam as our narrator. And Adam does a great job. He adds so much to the work itself. Like when we were talking about it before, he gave that Michael Ironside's character a Scottish accent, and it was so much better than what I had in my head that when I went back to revise his chapters and scenes and everything in the later books, I had Adam's voice in my head with a Scottish accent, you know. So yeah, it's cool. Most of them, you know, you can get them all on Amazon, but most of them you can get an audiobook if you want. And I highly recommend people support my narrator, Adam, because he does an amazing job. He's the son of an Anglican priest who was on an exorcism team. So he's got a bunch of fascinating stories. We've interviewed him a ton of times on the channel also.
Yeah.
And then if you're interested in, like, learning, if you're wanting to write something and you don't feel equipped or you feel overwhelmed or lost, Stephen Pressfield, all of Stephen Pressfield's nonfiction works, The War of Art, Turning Pro, it's just there are probably like 8 of them.
Well, they should start by going to the Goslings on YouTube and watching all the interviews that you guys have done with Stephen Pressfield, who's done big time Hollywood movies, who's been on Oprah, who's been on Joe Rogan, and this is y'all's uncle,
Yeah. It's wild. He's the guy who wrote The Legend of Bagger Vance. He also wrote King Kong Lives, which I maintain is a good script. But
listen, I liked that movie growing up. So
right? Yeah. No, he's like the Jedi master he's like the Yoda of writing. If you're struggling to finish a project and you feel stuck, anything by Stephen Pressfield will help dislodge that obstruction in your creative GI.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
Yeah. Nice.
All right, y'all. So we've got the Amazon link, and it's in the description. We've got I'm trying to get this link again with Brother Burl on Empyrean Rising, but Empyrean is so stinking hard to spell. Empire, Rian. Rising, and I'm gonna flash that on here one more time. But if you put Empyrean, hold up, I'm seeing the interview that you guys did with him, but I'm not seeing the thing. Is it Adam? His first name?
Yeah. If you probably have to type in Adam Burl, Heavenly Realms.
Oh, that's it.
And Adam's got a great channel. We've interviewed Stephen Pressfield a bunch of times on the Goslings. All of our contact info is there. Both of those guys, we're really blessed, man. Everybody in our outfit has been really, really cool to work with. So we've gotten very lucky.
Yes, and I hope to this year, very soon, do some scoring. So that's where I'm going to help bring some eyeballs to this whole series. I'm going to take some of these characters and write some motifs, so that when Jonathan gets out here and really starts marketing this book, and hopefully gets a graphic novel, so that we can take that and start getting somebody to either do an animated film or do a full series. Well, they'll already have the music.
Yeah.
So.
And for anybody who's wondering, I think address this. Book 4 in the series is don't worry about trying to spell it. It's called Triptych Codex. Book 4 takes place. It's a compilation of 3 war journals written by angels who fought in the War for the Throne, described in Empyrean Falling. So, Book 4 takes place at the same time as Book 1. It's meant to be there for a certain reason. One of the things it has in it not only is a bunch of concept art that I come up with when I was younger, for characters and formations and armies and stuff. It should also, nowadays, I think I uploaded a new version. It should also have a map, a very rudimentary map. But a lot of people always wanted a map of the lower realm of heaven, which is coming in the unabridged edition. But in the meantime, there is a more rudimentary, sketched out version of a map in Triptych Codex that you can utilize for the lower.
Cool.
Yeah.
Once again, very Tolkien of you.
Yeah. It's all connected. It all rhymes.
Thank you, George. Thank you, George. I mean, hey, you were saying it's out west, this is out east, and I'm like, okay, well, and then they go out to outer space and get stuck in the, in the darkness, and I'm like, okay, well, that's somewhere out in space. They went to the what do they call it in the Star Wars universe? Not the Outer Rim, the
unknown regions.
Oh yeah, well, or the well, not the undiscovered country. That was Star Trek 6. When Shatner had to write the Star Trek 5 that everybody hated. But I remember as a kid not thinking it was bad. I was honestly just confused a little bit.
Yeah. What does God need with a starship? Yeah. William Shatner wrote that movie, by the way, because it's the only one where Kirk fights God and wins. Yeah. And you know what? I say that as a Shatner fan. Actually, that one, no, that wasn't the Undiscovered Country. The Undiscovered Country was part 6. It was the next
one. Yeah. Undiscovered Country is the bomb.
Yeah, Undiscovered Country is great. It's a murder mystery in space.
It's great. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, y'all. Before Jonathan and I start rambling off in movies, and we'll end up talking about... Yeah, no. We'll end up talking about what was the one we almost got on a tangent on? It was after Dune. It was...
The Rock.
Oh, yeah, no, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't The Rock. Or was it The Rock?
I mean, take your pick,
Oh, shoot. Yeah. What was it? I'm going to have to go back and watch this episode now just to see what film that was. I'm like, oh, yeah. Because we were talking about how we could go through it would take 3 hours to go through it. Oh, well. That's how we're done.
It was Prince of Thieves.
That's it. Robin Hood of the Hood. How about call you Little John? So good. And the whole thing, literally just about every line is quotable.
Yeah. I've seen it done many times. On horses. C-section.
I tell you, John, he's killing her.
Tell you, John, that Moore is killing her.
What is that? Irish? Scottish? Moorish. Oh. To the trees. That's the to the trees.
To the trees.
I didn't put that on the Stream Deck.
If you could find a To the Trees audio file for Nick and surprise him with it, that was his favorite line from that movie when we were growing up. And we were obsessed with that movie, so.
Well, I'll just have to edit it out. Well, what was the character's name? Oh shoot, I can see him.
Aziz or Azim?
The little short guy that said To the Trees.
Oh, Bull.
Bull! As Bull said, it is time for Jonathan and I to go to the trees. So thank you guys for watching so much. Make sure you go to the Goslings and check out some of their stuff. They've got amazing stuff over there. And where was that link? Oh, it just put the It just put the whole... it disappeared, but it's in the comments section. It's in the description, so go to the Goslings, go to Amazon, order your copy of Heavenly Realms, and, Christmas is coming up. Get a copy if you got a nephew, a cousin, a son, a dad, somebody that likes to read or likes comic books and likes war, likes manly things, or, likes church and like, hey, you need a little bit of, you're suffering from a little low T spiritually and physically. Get them. Yeah, get them. Yeah, just put this, mainline it right into there. And if they don't like to read, get them the audiobook. It's on Audible. So that is it. We will be here next week. There's a couple other people that I've got lined up to interview, and we will be having the brother that has been mentioned many times, Brother Nick, on his book, not Destroying Babel. It's
Unplugging Babel.
Unplugging Babel. So we'll have Nick here in about 3 to 6 weeks, because I've just got to sit down for another hour to finish that book, because I could have read it in one sitting, but I've actually been making notes, doing scripture references, so I'm one of those nerds. I can't just read it. I gotta think. That's bad thing about being a thinker. So, Jonathan, we love you. We appreciate you, and it's my goal and hope that this thing will you'll have that Stephen Pressfield like trajectory with what God's given you. Because man, I know as being one that's written albums and you feel like nobody's listening to it. Is it any good? And it's good, man. It's good stuff. It's good stuff, and I'm hoping to one day see it be made into an anime or some kind of like Netflix supernatural like series, because it would just be all sorts of awesome. I mean, like Game of Thrones, level violence, because let me tell y'all, it does not shy away from the violence, much like the Bible doesn't.
Right.
The Bible don't shy away from violence, so neither should we be shrinking lilies. All right, that's it. That's the last line. Don't be a shrinking lily. Jesus loves you. So do we. Y'all take care and be blessed. All right. Peace out.